Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. So, folks, finally, we got some breaking news yesterday in the case you see on the screen, the missing Kansas moms, Jilian Kelly and Veronica Butler. Perhaps not the news that we wanted, but it's been 2 weeks. And there were several indications that this was perhaps not going to end happily. And there was much more to this. And from day one, based on some of the factors involved, I and many other investigators firmly believe that this was no random carjacking off the road and seeing where the car was left and some of the factors there. And from the very beginning, right till now, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation has really given almost nothing in the way of information to the public. I'm sure they've told the family of Jilian Kelly what was going on. They couldn't tell the other side because they were suspects. But some of the information that slowly started to come out was bad news. It was very bad news. And we're going to get into this case, but what we know now, of course, is there you have on the screen, these 4 people have been arrested in connection with this case. Tifany Machel Adams, age 54, she's the grandmother of the 2 children in custody who are having the custody battle with Veronica Butler, one of the missing women. Earl Twombly, Cora Twombly, they're just identified on Facebook as friends of Tifany Machel Adams. I hope that's friends on Facebook decide to go along on what is a murder, now charged with murder first degree. And Bert Cullum, he is the boyfriend of Tifany Machel Adams, the grandmother in this caper. So early on, we sort of knew that there was a custody battle going on, and it seemed like an ugly one. And today's 2 weeks. Now, all those 4 defendants that you've seen up on the screen, they've already all been charged with murder in the first degree, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder. So they still haven't recovered the remains of Jilian Kelly and Veronica Butler. And that's going to be a really important part of this investigation. But the evidence on the scene that led the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation to immediately say that it looks like there's foul play. And they wouldn't indicate what the evidence was that led them to say that, it was foul play. But we're going to take a dive into potentially what they did find on that scene and 2 weeks of investigation. Some of the evidence that they've no doubt recovered in the continuation of this evidence and of this case. And they're not done. They're still digging, and they still will be digging till they get answers to everything they need to know. And of course, the overused word closure, it'll never have closure, but you want to find the remains of the victims. But the families will never have closure because their lives were taken from them in the most violent, horrific way. So folks, hang on to your seats, hang on to your hats. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in 10th and Ranch Michael by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
So just to update everyone on this story, it's been confirmed that 4 people have been arrested in connection to the disappearance of 2 Kansas moms. Veronica Butler, age 27, and Jilian Kelly, 39, from Hugoton, Kansas, disappeared on March 30th without a trace except for an abandoned car found on the side of the road. And I'm going to put the pictures up of the individuals who have been arrested. Tifany Machel Adams, age 54. Cole Earl Twombly, age 50. Tad Bert Cullum, age 43. Cora Twombly, age 44. All 4 of them were booked into the Texas County Jail on 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, according to the police. It's been learned that Adams is the grandmother of Butler's children, and Cullum is Adams' boyfriend. The OSBI and local law enforcement is still currently working to locate the remains of the 2 victims. Sources, unnamed sources, have told News Nation that police suspect the women were shot and blood was found near the vehicle they were last seen in. Investigators haven't confirmed these details. On April 30th, OSBI said there was evidence to indicate foul play based on information obtained from the vehicle. Police say the 2 disappeared after their car was found 1,000 feet off Oklahoma State Highway 95 along a dirt path on March 30th. It was previously reported that a small amount of blood was found inside the vehicle, but sources now say that there was also separate puddles of blood outside the vehicle. Police have described the 2 women as more acquaintances than friends. It's been reported that Kelly was the supervisor of the childhood visits for Butler. Family members have been asked to postpone media interviews until the police tell them otherwise. Say the 2 women were involved in their community and their churches. The car the 2 women were traveling in was found in a vast open area near Yarborough School, from which Butler graduated in 2015. Despite investigators believing foul play could be involved in the woman's disappearance, there have been few visible signs of an active large-scale search. I'm now going to introduce my guest host, my co-host today, and you guys know him as a retired NYPD Sergeant Mike Geary, professor at Albertus Magnus College, and also an attorney. Mike, welcome to the show.
Billy, good to see you. Thank you for having me on. Welcome, everybody.
You know, Mike, one of the things, and there's so many things in regards to this case that only the police know. And again, as I do in most of these cases, I take my hat off to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, Kansas Highway Patrol, the Texas County Sheriff's Office. They did an unbelievable job. And when we say, we've said it a million times, the press can be your best friend or they can be your worst enemy. And in this case, I hand it to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation to keeping the lid on the dissemination of information so they could do their job. Look, these were local people. From the very beginning of this investigation, this case smelled. It smelled of something very, very suspicious, something very nefarious. And when they discovered blood inside the car and then pools of blood outside the car, we all could conjecture something really bad happened. But we're going to talk about how they potentially determined that it was a gunshot. And I don't know who's telling. The only news organization that is reporting that is News Nation. So they obviously have a mole inside that is sharing investigative information. And that's where they're getting from. Mike?
Yeah, Billy, Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation did a fabulous job. And they kept quiet. They work with the FBI. They work with other law enforcement in the area. They did a great job. So kudos to them. And interesting, you and I and Phil, you know, we're junkies. This is what we did for over 20 years. We love talking about this stuff. And we want to, read up on and get as much information as we could. And the fact that they were so tight-lipped as a law enforcement agency is frustrating, but they did the right thing because they recognized themselves, as you and Phil would, as experienced investigators. This was not some happenstance, a bolt of lightning out of blue, like some stranger just found these two unfortunate ladies. This smacked of evil, local evil, right in the area. So they knew they probably did not need to do a canvas of like the entire Southwest, like they were chasing some sort of, gangsters running from the law. They knew in their hearts these were local people, and they didn't want to tip off anybody that they had on their radar probably pretty darn quickly. They didn't want to tip them off because the more you tell, the media, they could help look for people. But in this case, the Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation didn't need that. They probably kind of knew who they were looking for, probably where they lived, the location where they'd find them, and they wanted to keep everything really quiet. You don't want these people to move. You want them to just sit there and go about their lives and think that they got away with it, and then you spring your trap. That's why when you saw the video of the SWAT team, they were heavily armed. They moved in as quick as they could, and they did it really professional. So kudos to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Fabulous.
100%. Carol Grayston, thank you so much. Carol she's a member of our YouTube channel. She just gifted 5 police off the cuff memberships. Carol, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. That's tremendous.
Thank
and
you.
your support of the channel and giving 5 other people the love of police off the cuff. We really appreciate that. That's so great. Mike was referring to yesterday the SWAT team that descended upon Granny. Let's call her Granny, Tifany Machel Adams. I don't want to call her part of the Adams family, but this is what it looked like yesterday when they descended upon this home. They were loaded for bear. They were not messing around in this case. And obviously, they had reason to be loaded for bear. They knew about the people that they were going after. And look at this guy, Bert Cullum, and Tifany Machel Adams, who was the grandmother. They know who these people are. You don't go into a dangerous situation without learning everything about the people that you're going in after. What's their criminal history? Have they made complaint reports? Do they work? What is their background? Who are these? What's their reputation? You want to know all those things. You also want to have, if you possibly can get it, a schematic of the home so that when you boom those doors, you know what you're running into. How many guns do they have? Well, we can pull up the state, see if they have licensed guns. Oh, this lady looks like a big time gun owner. She's got 50 guns in that house or whatever she has. So that's why the police, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and all these other affiliate police organizations that went on this raid, they were loaded for bear. They were ready to take these people down because these are serious, serious people.
Yeah, Billy, you want to show force. You don't want to go in there just because a person's technically a grandmother, and you just don't want to knock on the front door in your nice press uniform, knock on the front door and say, I want to speak to you. No. A show of force, which actually will intimidate, you hope, the person that you're going to get. You want to intimidate them into submission. You don't want to fire a shot if you don't have to, obviously, because these people may give you information about where the missing ladies are. So you don't want to do that, but you want to go in there with a massive and overwhelming amount of firepower so they back down immediately. They give up. they're scared. You want to put them in a corner where they will not act out against you. You have just two police cars, two officers getting out of patrol car. No, with revolvers or even nines. No, you got to have guys with the Kevlar helmets, the Kevlar vests, the M16s, the whole thing. They did it right. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew what they were going up against, possible murderers. They're not just picking up people on burglary charges. This is conspiracy to commit murder charges. They did it great. They did a really excellent job.
Absolutely. Kevin Callahan, thank you for the 5-pound super sticker. Much appreciated. So I want to talk about the crime scene and how immediately the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, what they saw at that crime scene. First of all, certain things tell you other things. This car is at the side of a road in a very desolate area. Was there gas in the car? They didn't run out of gas. Did the car break down? Did they have a flat? All of those questions you're going to be looking at. So then why did this car pull over? Apparently it was 3 miles from the abandoned gas station, which probably was a bad place to meet also, where they had previously done the exchange of the children at that location. Apparently this was 3 miles from there. So initially people were saying, oh, this was maybe a carjacking, or they met strangers on the road. And right away, like Mike, you're shaking your head. We said, no, this is a known two. The people that did this know them because they left the car in this desolate area. Now we find blood in the car. Does blood definitely mean something nefarious, foul play? Well, what was the blood? Was it blood spatter? And what do I mean by that? Well, there's 3 types of blood spatter they talk about: low impact, medium impact, and high impact spatter. A gunshot wound causes high velocity spatter inside or on an object. And a good investigator can tell that this was caused by a firearm. They may have made, and then when they go outside the car, there's apparently a puddle of blood, lots of blood. Could that be from a knife wound? Yeah, but then connected to what they saw in the car. Is there ballistics in the car, or is there evidence of gunshot holes inside the car? Did they find any ballistics outside the car, i.e., a spent shell from a semi-automatic? So all of those things, and we applauded the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation to keeping that quiet. Somehow News Nation was told, oh, this was a gunshot wound. So now also, how did they get the 2 bodies out of the car if they in fact did shoot them dead inside the car? They had to go inside the car, didn't they? Could they have left their DNA inside the car in doing that? Absolutely. Could they have left their fingerprints inside the car, having retrieved the bodies? All of those things are possibilities. That's why you must leave or keep the crime scene so pristine so you don't. Dr. Edmund Locard's theory of exchange: if you go into a crime scene, you bring something with you. When you go out of that crime scene, you bring something into the crime scene, you take something out. So that's why crime scene investigators have to do their job so meticulously as to not contaminate the scene. The other thing was, there's other things in the car that can tell us information. The car's computer. Where did that car stop? Where was it pulled over? Some of these cars have that accurate GPS that can tell us that. But guess what? All of that information takes time. Mm-hmm. And we don't get immediate gratification like a lot of these news stations want. They want immediate gratification. Well, what happened? Why aren't they telling us? Well, first of all, they don't want to tell you. Second of all, perhaps they don't have that information yet. It takes time. And we're going to get into more later, Mike, of the electronic evidence that no doubt played a huge part in this. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Billy, you and I have seen people shot to death on the street, dead in an apartment, dead in a hallway, back of a building. Maybe you've seen someone dead in a car. That speaks to you because you sit there and you figure, okay, people don't realize it, but you reverse engineer. You start out with what you ended up with and you go backwards. How did this person end up over there, that position? They must have been somewhere else before. Where was the most blood? Is there blood spatter behind them over there? So we know they were hit from this side. The spatter went this way. They staggered. They fell down over there. You start to see these things, and over the course of a number of times, you begin to get that experience. So you reverse engineer it. And so if there's just something more than a bloody nose, like a napkin with a little blood on it, something more than that, I'm very suspicious. And so therefore, if there's just a few droplets of blood, but they're on the dashboard and there's some on the glass, well, then I'm thinking, okay, there was an impact here and the blood went flying from the person's face or their chest, and it spattered and hit the dashboard or the glass. That's concerning. If there's a little bit of blood in there, but there's also droplets of blood leading out of the car, I'm like, okay, we could tell they were taken out this way, and it must have been an awaiting car, or maybe they were dragged to a culvert, and that sort of thing. And so they did a great job. Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation did a fabulous job keeping that scene pristine. And the good thing is they kept the news media wasn't around to perhaps contaminate the scene or make some suggestions with video of the crime scene. And so then you have rumors. They did a great job. They knew what they were doing. Even the very first person was probably a uniformed officer like myself, like a lot of other officers. You get to the crime scene. If you're not careful, you could actually mess up that crime scene. So they did a fabulous job from the first responding officer that found that car all the way up to the homicide detectives, the crime scene people, the forensics people. They did a fabulous job.
100%. Cheated no more. Sounds brutal. I do not know much about blood spatter. I did not know about how it is worse from a gunshot. Cheated no more. It's not that it's worse. The pieces of blood spatter, which are cylindrical in shape usually, are much smaller. And with a gunshot, when you could even have specks of it, that indicates the speed of the object that caused the blood spatter. So with a blunt instrument like a club, you would have bigger clumps of blood. Yeah. And that would be low impact blood spatter. And then medium, something that, again, moves a little bit faster. But a firearm, a round, can move at 1,450 feet per second. So it caused the blood spatter is quite small. And that's how a real good crime scene investigator can determine these injuries were caused by a gunshot. So those little tricks you get and being an investigator. I wanted to say also that one of the things that a good investigator does immediately, and you've heard me talk about a million times, is something called a victimology. All right, a victimology. So who is Veronica Butler? Let's run everything on her. We find out she has 2 kids. We find out she has a custody battle. We start asking all kinds of questions. We start interviewing people. We start interviewing Wrangler Cole Rickman, who is the baby's daddy, all right, who's also apparently the son of Granny. It's scary, right? Granny here, Tifany Machel Adams. So Wrangler Cole Rickman, who happens to be the baby's father of the 2 children in this custody battle, he apparently was also intimidated by Tifany. I can't get used to spelling Tifany with 1 F. Tifany, and she spells Machel with an Machel. Tifany Machel, that's not important. But apparently he was terrified of her also. I was reading just some of the things I found on Facebook. So when I say dig into this, now we know who the baby's daddy is, because they apparently weren't married, but they had 2 children in common. Wrangler Cole Rickman. And so we start digging, and then we find out that there is a really badly custody battle going through the grandmother, Tifany Machel Adams, over the 6-year-old daughter and the 8-year-old son. And she apparently could get violent over this. And so did the police know this very, very early on? You bet. You bet they did. And we're going to get into of course, what solves almost every case these days, and I'm not saying specifically, but it certainly aided with this case, cell phones, right? And perhaps the killers got rid of the cell phones of these two young women. However, the police can still get access to that through search warrants and through the data, of course, from a forensic dump of those phones. So important. And then we start looking at one of the most important things. Let's see what the communication was like between these people. Tifany Machel Adams, Tad Bert Cullum, the boyfriend, Earl Twombly and his wife, Cora Twombly. Let's see if they all are calling each other. Let's see if they're all text messaging each other. Let's find out where they were on the day that these two victims, Jilian Kelly and Veronica Butler, went missing. Let's find out all of those things. And guess what? They did an amazing job because 4 people have been arrested, which shows, and they're charged. This is a death penalty case, folks. This is a death penalty case. Kidnapping, first-degree murder, right? And the commission of another felony, right, which is the kidnapping. They killed 2 human beings. And we don't have the bodies yet, do we? And I'm not going to buy in or sell the rumors that they were dumped in a hog farm until we know specifically where they are. And guess what? Mike Geary said before, there's got to be a weak link in these 4 people. Let's look at these 4 people. And you know who he picked out as the weak link? Right here. Right there. Cora Twombly, the wife of Earl Twombly. She, or he even, but Mike picked out, is going to be the one that folds like a cheap suit. And she's going to if she knows where those bodies are, she's going to fold and let the police know, because someone does not want to get the death penalty in this. They got 4 death penalties in this. Someone is going to sell to save their own life. They're going to sell what they know, and they're going to testify against the other 3. Who was the killer in this? If we had to guess, who's the shooter? And if you had to guess, and I don't know, I would say it's one of the 2 on the left. It's either Tifany Machel Adams or Tad Bert Cullum. And the other 2 were probably just stupid enough to get involved in something they had no business. And I don't know either one of them to vouch for their character. They probably have no character if they're hanging out with these people. But one of them is going to fold like a cheap suit, and that's where how the police are going to recover the remains of the victims.
Right. Yeah, Billy, there's no honor among thieves. And when you're looking at, you got 4 people now looking at the possibility of life behind bars for maybe 10 years, 20 years. And then at the end of that, you're going to be given the big needle or an electric chair. Someone will fold like cheap cardboard, like wet cardboard. Somebody's going to fold. And my feeling is I would bet my next paycheck that it's Cora Twombly, because she is not emotionally involved in this case, and her boyfriend isn't emotionally involved in this case. The only 2 people who are really emotionally involved, my guess, is Tad Bert Cullum as the boyfriend of the grandmother and Tifany. And my feeling is Tifany probably got the ball rolling. She got her boyfriend Tad involved, and then Tad is probably looking around because he's gonna need some help here. And so he contacted his friends from Facebook. I think the mother started it. I think the shooter is, my guess is going to be Tad. I'm putting my money on Tad, and I think I'll put my paycheck on Cora Twombly as the one who gives it all up, because if I'm her attorney, I'm going to tell her, look, somebody's going to crack. The first person that cracks and gets into that district attorney's office and starts spilling their guts is going to save their life. Do you want to spend the rest of your life behind bars, or at the very least, you're going to spend 20, 30 years and then get the big needle or the electric chair? Do you really want that? If you speak now, you can save your life. You might not be able to save your boyfriend's life, but you'll be able to save your life. What you're going to need to do is tell the police everything that happened, from as much as you know, who started it, who got the ball rolling, who did the shooting, and also where are the bodies. Give those families some closure. And I think that my paycheck is on Cora. I think she'll fold.
100%. Tina Powers, can they have 2 plea deals on the table or just one? How many plea deals do they have on the table? I know it's early, but I'm just asking a question. Tina, there's one plea deal. They'll get the weakest person, the weakest link, or the person that they think is the least involved, and they'll bring that person forward, and they'll offer that person whatever. They're still going to make that person do jail time.
Oh, yeah.
But perhaps that person won't be facing the death penalty or life in prison. So Mike is predicting that person is Cora Twombly, and apparently hasn't been in trouble before, maybe has a nice life, or what she sees as a nice life, and she's never tasted jail or prison before. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, hit the like button, share us with your friends and your family. Also, if you want to contribute to us, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels, and we also have a YouTube channel membership with, count them, 5 different levels. And we appreciate all of our fans, our friends, our subscribers that help us to keep this show going and to give you the true crime police perspective from experience on what we see in these cases. I want to play a little bit of News Nation. They're the ones that pretty much had boots on the ground during this whole investigation. And apparently this is a scary part of Oklahoma. You know, fields all over the place, dark. You can't go on people's land unless they know you'll be firing a shotgun your way. So this area is no joke. So let me play a little bit of the News Nation report on this, since they were boots on the ground quite early.
Right now to a News Nation exclusive on a story we have been following since the very beginning. Tomorrow marks 14 days since 2 mothers went missing along a rural Oklahoma highway, gone without a trace. And tonight you'll hear new details only on News Nation about that bitter custody battle that most likely is at the center of this case. Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelly were traveling to Oklahoma to pick up Butler's 2 small children. Their car was found off the State Highway 95 on March 30th, way down a dirt road, for a weird place for that car to stop. So nearly 2 weeks later, authorities in Oklahoma have not shared any updates for more than a week since revealing that investigators suspect foul play. We do know the FBI is helping in the investigation, but here's some sobering stats. According to the FBI, about 70% of all reported missing persons are found and returned within 48 to 72 hours. It's now been 300 hours since Butler and Kelly were last seen. All right, so joining us now is News Nation producer Allison Weiner. She's been digging into this story. Allison, what have you learned about the evidence in and around that abandoned car that leads police to believe there was foul play?
Well, there was a lot of discussion early, that we've already learned that there was some blood that was found in the car. And that was something that the police, indicated that there was some foul play. There was blood, a tiny bit of blood in the car, not a huge amount. But what we've now learned is that there was also blood outside of the car, 2 separate puddles of blood. And the reason I was wondering, and I asked my source or several sources, why the press wasn't able to see that, is that those, after the police were able to do initial investigation, those puddles were kind of dried up with dirt, and
so they covered it up. They covered it up so that reporters wouldn't take pictures of it. Okay, exactly. So we've been talking about this custody battle between Veronica Butler and her and the father of the 2 children. Veronica Butler had only supervised visits with her kids every week or 2. Why did she lose custody of the children?
Well, I was able to find out that it turns out that there was an allegation of sexual abuse of the children. It's not by Veronica and not by the father, but by somebody within the family circle. And that based on that, the grandmother of the father went forward with trying to gain the custody, and according to the father, made him say some things that weren't totally true. and that is and managed to gain custody. The father managed to gain custody, but then the father was sent to prison on a domestic violence allegation, and he now is in rehab in Oklahoma City, and the grandmother has custody.
All right, we're looking at a picture of the father right now, Wrangler Rickman. I believe this is his mugshot. But wasn't he just released a few days ago, a few days before these two women disappeared?
Actually not. He was, during the time they disappeared, the police have been able to confirm that he was in the rehab facility.
Okay.
And they confirmed it, and my source confirmed it.
Okay. So, but there was a hearing scheduled this coming week on the whole custody issue. Veronica Butler was fighting to get her kids back.
Yes. There was a custody hearing scheduled, and basically what happened is that Veronica and the grandmother would exchange custody at this abandoned gas station called Four Corners, and they'd done it many times before, and they were on their way to Four Corners to do the custody exchange.
And I'm just curious, this custody exchange, do we know anything? Was it amicable? I can't imagine it was, if the grandmother had helped launch these sexual abuse allegations against the mother. That must have been a fraught situation between the two.
It was a very fraught situation between the two, and the father has said that his own mother, the grandmother, like forced him to say certain things, and that she threatened to shoot him in the head if he didn't say it. And it's in court documents, that comment. And we at News Nation have obtained and been able to review those court documents. So we know that this is not the custody. We thought it was a custody dispute, but this is a volatile custody dispute with a lot of anger coming from both sides. This is what we found in the court documents, that the plaintiff further stated that he had been threatened numerous times by his mother. That's the grandmother who has custody of the children now, that she would kill him, shoot him in the head if he didn't do what she told him to do. So he did what she told him to do.
And a lot of people there, a lot of people there are afraid of that family, Allison. We've found out from several reporters who've been down there on the scene.
Yeah, I mean, reporting on custody issues or potential, I mean, it's difficult and dangerous work, but it's work that needs to be done because we need to try to help find these women.
Thanks so much.
So now we know the inside story, and that this is or was the story that the police knew from day one. So they had a direction to go. That's why when people ask, well, how do you know it wasn't a carjacking? How did they get that car? Look, there's a million ways they got that car to that location. They could have met them at the gas station and told them or forced them to drive to a certain location, putting one of them in their car. There's a million ways that could have been accomplished. However, we don't know the entire way right now. We don't know also, and a really important thing is, did any of them make a statement? We don't know, do we? Potentially one, two, or three could have made a statement, could have, a statement that implicates them, a statement that implicates who the shooter is, a statement where the bodies are. We don't know any of that yet because the police are being still very close to the vest, keeping all the information that they know from everyone else.
Yeah, Billy, you really want the police in the very beginning, no matter what amount of information they have, before they even really begin to start corralling one person or two people, you want them to interview every single member of the family, Kansas police officers, Oklahoma police officers, going out, getting some information. And so speaking to them, they're not in custody. You're not asking them incriminating questions. You're just asking them, do you know of anybody who would want to hurt, one of the girls, that sort of thing. Have you heard anything? So, and one of the good things about that is an investigator could actually have a very frank conversation with some of these four people here, and actually kind of pin them down to where they were, what they were doing, who they were with, before they even are suspects. And therefore, once you get them pinned down there, and you can start to figure out, okay, where were they? What were they doing? That sort of thing. And as you're getting more information on top of that, then you develop, your short list of suspects. But they did a great job. I'm sure, even though not a lot was leaked to the news media, that the police in Kansas and Oklahoma, they were all very busy doing a lot of investigation, a lot of interviews, as you say, doing the perpology, doing the victimology, and saying, okay, where did they, and they must have found out early on, where would the exchange be? And then from there, okay, where's the car? Okay, that makes sense. So probably what happened is, as we now know, is what we believe happened is that they went to that gas station, met, and then they were forced over to the other location, and maybe that's where some sort of shooting, some sort of execution may have taken place. But the police were very, very professional, and they did a great job. And although it's frustrating for people not to get information, they did it right because they had to do it, because the short list of people was very local people, and they didn't want anybody to run. They didn't want anybody to just disappear in the middle of the woods somewhere or the forest somewhere. They wanted people to stay right where they were, do what they normally do, think that they're not being suspected, and think that maybe that first couple of questions they got from an investigator about, hey, did you know your daughter-in-law is missing? That sort of kind of stuff. You hope that they would think that was all that was going to happen, and so they would be very comfortable staying put.
Absolutely. Phoebe, at Police Off the Cuff, eyewitness that saw two vehicles and a flatbed with the car at the location. It looks like the car may have been placed there after the crime was done elsewhere. Phoebe, I have no reason not to believe that, but it hasn't been confirmed by the police or any organization, so I can't take that as fact. One of the things that, if that's true, these big trucks may have left huge tire imprints on those roads. Part of those roads look like they're dirt, so there could potentially be evidence of that. Karen Solak, I've heard they are sovereign citizens. Yeah, I've heard that too. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing, that people that claim to be sovereign citizens. So I don't go by your laws. I go by my own. Yeah, that'll work. You can say how sovereign you are, but if you live in this country, you go by the laws of the United States. You go by the laws of the state you live in, the county you live in, all of those things. You can say you're sovereign how many times you want. Getting back into the investigation, we always talk about the digital part of this case. And one of the problems, of course, is this was so rural. So where are the cell sites? Where are the cell sites that allow your cell phone perhaps to work? But sometimes you can go off the actual the cell towers and use your phone to do it, and so it's not completely shutting off digital communication. The other thing is, these people were moving around, so their cell phones, their cell site information will be, as we know, as a GPS. And again, it can be made more difficult by the ruralness of this area, but how about also their computers? How about the pre-planning of this? Isn't there going to be a record on cell phones with the four conspirators? Because they're also charged with conspiracy.
Right.
There's going to be a record of these four communicating with each other, right? Their cell phones and their text messages going to each other. That is part of this investigation, a huge part, and part of the investigation, of course, that takes so much time, because to get cell phone and digital information, you need a search warrant. So you have to go to a judge. Guaranteed, they also got a search warrant to search Tifany Machel Adams's home, Earl Twombly and Cora Twombly's home, Tad Bert Cullum, if he lives by himself. I don't know where he lives. Search warrants as well as arrest warrants they got for all of these people. And part of those arrest warrants, of course, will be to search their computers and their cell phones and everything else they have in their home that could implicate them in a crime like this. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, there's so much information. Like we've talked about many times, you and Phil have talked about many times, there are numerous crime scenes here. There is the car, okay? that they found abandoned, there is the homes of these, whether or not it's 2, 3, or 4 homes of these people, probably at least 2 or 3. And then you have any of their vehicles, because those ladies, I'm guessing, were probably put into the trunk of a car and then driven somewhere, that sort of thing. So you're going to be, and that will give you a lot of information. How much blood was found in a car, one of their cars, compared to the car that was abandoned? A lot more or just a little bit more? That would give you a good indication if they were still alive when they were put into another car and driven somewhere. And so that's all really important information. And that tells, gives a sequence to the actions that day. So they can figure out, okay, were they dead already by the time they got into those cars, or were they still alive and then horrifically driven somewhere? We don't know that yet, but there are so many crime scenes right there, more than than you have fingers on your hand. So it's a very small case, but it's also a very complicated case, because you're trying to sequence everything and figure out where everybody was. And we can hope that these 4 people were, communicating over several days, at least, maybe a week or 2, about what their plans were, giving the authorities an inside look into their mental state. What were they thinking? Did this come about fairly, haphazardly, or was this a really from what they could potentially do, a well thought out operation that they thought they could get away with? And so all of that is just, it reveals their mental state. And you really want to know that as a prosecutor, what they were thinking, when they were thinking, when decisions were made, who was the one pushing for certain decisions to be made, who was doing the action, that sort of stuff. That's vital when you go to charge these people and bring them to trial. Really important information.
Cheated no more. Thank you for the $5 super sticker. No words to express how glad I am to make it to the chat today. Well, thank you so much, Cheated no more. Very much appreciate you here. One of the things that is a technique, and it's they brought the FBI in very early, which was a great decision to do, because besides the experience of the FBI, they have certain toys that most local police departments, even the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, will not have as sophisticated surveillance equipment, for example, or something called geofencing. And they have the equipment that is unbelievable that can do this. What is geofencing? Geofencing is to pick a specific area, and through their technology, they can pull up every cell phone, every computer, every digital device that is communicating within that area at a specific location and time. So if they know what was going on where the murder occurred, they can, through electronic technology, through geofencing, and again, the FBI has all the best tools for this, pull up this invaluable evidence. And this is, when this case, if it ever does go to trial, this information will be put together in a box with a ribbon and a bow on it. And it'll be such powerful, powerful evidence that there will be no doubt that these people, because what was one of the charges? Well, we had murder first degree, 2 counts for all 4 people.
That's right.
Conspiracy. That's set, conspiracy to commit murder. That means all of these people were talking to each other. They were involved. The police know about this. Conspiracy to commit murder. Very powerful charges. And kidnapping. I can't forget kidnapping. So someone was abducted. Someone was forced to go to a location they did not want to go against their will. So they were kidnapping. They were brought potentially across state lines. Well, they came across state lines to visit Oklahoma from Kansas. So the FBI is involved in this case for very good reasons, and they're going to follow this case through. And another question I undoubtedly know that people in the chat will ask, can they try a murder case if they never recover the bodies? And the answer to that is yes, they can. And that is through circumstantial evidence. And Mike can explain that since he's the guy with the law degree.
Yeah, the idea that you have to have the body to charge someone with murder, and if the police can't find the body, a person can't be charged with murder. You see these things on maybe old movies, but the truth is, you could circumstantially prove that a person was killed by the fact that they were never seen again. B, no cell phone activity. C, no credit card activity. D, no ATM, no ATM activity. They didn't report to their job. Maybe their car is gone. They haven't contacted any loved ones. There was a lot of blood found in a particular location where maybe they were last seen. They haven't made a phone call. Their cell phone died. All of these things indicate cessation of life. And so if you could circumstantially show that a person is no longer, a living, breathing, human being on the face of the earth, to a jury's, satisfaction, then you've circumstantially proved that they've been killed. Now, the defendant is going to say, well, the person just left. They just left everything. And maybe they just took a long vacation and they dropped their cell phone. They want to start their lives all over again. You can say that as a defense attorney, and you may think that's going to work, but look at the circumstances. Do you think a woman who's going to go visit her two children, say in this case, who's fighting for custody of her children, is suddenly just decided that she's just going to, I don't need those two children? What mom is going to just leave their two children and just go off and start a new life? No, that doesn't even pass a straight face test. But circumstantial evidence is evidence that would convince a person through a little bit of logic that a certain result had happened. It's not the same thing as actually having video of the actual crime take place, or an eyewitness saying they actually saw it, or a person making incriminating statements and implicating themselves in a crime. But most all evidence, even DNA evidence, fingerprint evidence, even cell phone activity evidence, cell tower evidence, that is all circumstantial. It is very strong evidence. And you put it all together and you ask jurors to just use their common sense to figure out what they think happened. And as a prosecutor, I want a lot of that, as much as technical information as I can. Fingerprints, blood stains, blood spatter, DNA evidence, cell phone evidence. I want all that stuff because that's dispassionate. There's nobody saying it. It's actually recorded by your cell phone. We know all of this information is absolutely accurate. So nobody can deny that they weren't there with their cell phone at a particular time in a particular place. So that, as you said, Billy, it's all going to be wrapped up in a nice bow in a little gift box to the district attorneys. And when the district attorneys reveal that to the attorneys, the defense attorneys for these four clowns,
Mike,
before that, even, I think somebody's going to fold. But if they don't fold before then, they will fold then. Absolutely.
Cat 747, the mom of Jilian, posted on Facebook that Jilian has passed. Cat, I think we sort of all know that. And until like law enforcement specifically reports that, I can't really go with that. I mean, thank you for that information, but I got to go with fact in far as, and we probably all know in our heart that Jilian and Veronica are deceased. But as long as there's even a speck of hope, I guess, Daryl Hicks, people don't understand that conspiracy is the biggest, most inclusive crime you can be charged with. It gets everybody.
Yeah.
Wow, Daryl, that's a great thought. Thank you for pointing that out. Love bug. That's why visits were supervised due to allegations of SA. Yeah, and someone said before that in custody battles, that sometimes one party can use that as weaponize that, and it not be true. But the mere allegation throws the person's life into a tizzy, and especially if it's not true. Phoebe, aren't there some states that require the body in order to charge first-degree murder? I don't know the law in every single state, but I don't think that's the law. I think they can still charge it based on circumstantial evidence. I've never heard of a state that does that. Jennifer Bossert, circumstantial evidence is like puzzle pieces that all show a bigger picture. Very good. Very, very good way to look at it, and like the definition actually in a criminal justice book is circumstantial evidence is evidence which inferences are drawn from, and the way you explained it perhaps paints a much better picture than the way I just said it from a criminal justice book. Nina Chandra, I saw a couple of those types of trials on Court TV. Amazing how they get guilty verdicts on both. Well, there's something called leverage, and that's why the death penalty can be so important, because it gives a prosecutor the leverage that they need to perhaps get a guilty plea for life without parole. And death penalty cases can be problematic because the appeals are endless. The time that someone gets convicted to the time they're actually put to death sometimes can be 25 or 30 years, or perhaps it never happened because the appeal is successful. So, as I said, sometimes death penalty cases are problematic, but it's always good for a prosecutor to have that little bargaining chip. I want to play this also from News Nation here.
Everyone knew this morning multiple arrests have been made involving the two women who disappeared in Oklahoma 2 weeks ago. Nancy Liu joining us from Hugoton, Kansas with the latest. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning, Hannah. It's sure to be an emotional Sunday service here at First Christian Church in Hugoton. This is where the husband of Jilian Kelly is the lead pastor. That Kelly and Veronica Butler would be found safe. Well, the four under arrest for first-degree murder and other felony charges: 54-year-old Tifany Adams, her boyfriend Tad Cullum, and Cole and Cora Twombly. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations is not revealing details about the suspects' alleged crimes or what happened, but a custody fight may be linked to it all. Tifany Adams is the grandmother of the two children Butler was on her way to see on March 30th, and Adams had bitterly fought against more visitation. A custody hearing was set for next week when Butler was expected to seek full custody. Kelly was among four court-appointed supervisors for Butler's visitations. They never made it to the usual pickup point at an abandoned gas station in Texas County, Oklahoma. Well, that's where our News Nation crew captured this exclusive footage of law enforcement closing in on the suspects to execute the four arrest warrants in both Texas and neighboring Cimarron County. We spotted more than 20 police and SWAT vehicles at one point, following them to various locations outside the Twombly's property. We heard an officer on a loudspeaker announcing, "We have a warrant for your arrest." All officers appeared heavily armed and prepared for a gunfight in case of resistance. They also seemed wary of all who approached, drawing guns to turn people back, including us. Tifany Adams and the others are now behind bars at the Texas County Jail. They also face charges of kidnapping and conspiracy to commit murder, indicating they allegedly plotted the killings. OSBI is not providing details on what led to the suspect arrests or their alleged roles in what happened. Now, the agency is also not revealing yet whether they've located or recovered the women's remains. But Hannah, definitely a tragic ending that many had feared.
Yeah.
So, you could see that in one way, we want the information. We want the news people to have the information. And that's why I always say that the press is and TV are the police's best friends and perhaps worst enemies, because they really do, to protect the case, they really do have to keep it close to the vest. And we get tired of hearing that expression, "Oh, they're keeping it close." But if you understood why, it makes more sense. You want the success of this case. You wanted to see these 4 people arrested, didn't you? Perhaps if they would have given the information out early on, it would have thwarted the investigation. Perhaps 1 or 2 or 3 or more would have fled the jurisdiction. So don't show them your cards. Don't show them what you're holding in your hand. And that's the thought. That's what law enforcement does. They don't show their hand to the potential defendants. And look, 4 charges, well, actually 2 charges each to 4 people of first-degree murder. 2 charges each of first-degree kidnapping. Conspiracy to all of them. They might not have been that successful if they would have released the information early on to the press. Your thoughts, Mike?
Billy, you're right. The press could be your best friend. And in the cases where you think a person you've identified a suspect and they fled and they're running amok and you don't know where they are, they're armed and considered dangerous, then absolutely you want the press to know that. You want the public to know it so that if they see any of the particular persons that you're looking for, keep their doors locked, be on the lookout for this sort of thing. Yeah, I remember thinking of the Boston Marathon bombing. You had a manhunt for someone who's involved in multiple homicides. So therefore, you wanted the press out there so the press could notify the public and everybody could be as safe as you possibly can, given the circumstances. With this case, if it is accurate that they consider themselves sovereign citizens, they may be heavily armed themselves with weaponry that they might barricade themselves someplace on their property and want to just shoot it out with the police. You do not want to give those people any sort of idea that they may not already have that they are under heightened suspicion. You want them to just go about their day, think that they're not being paid too much attention to, and then you swoop in like they did. It's not like the police don't want the press. A free press makes our country great, but you also don't want, you have a higher consideration, and that is the safety of the public and the safety of the officers concerned. And therefore that you have to make a judgment. Do you give some information? Do you hold a press conference or not? And, it's up to the individual sheriff in that county or the head of the state police. So therefore, I think in this case, they did a good job. They judged the people that they had, and they wanted to keep everything as quiet as they possibly could. And they did a very professional job. And they took 4 people into custody who they think may have been heavily armed, because they have some weaponry because from what you saw at the crime scene, and what the psychology may be if they do think they're sovereign citizens. And you don't want to shoot out. You don't want them getting shot. You want everybody to get through this ordeal in one piece, and then you move on. And they did a great job. So kudos.
100%. They were definitely loaded for bear. I just want to mention something about Jilian Kelly. Jilian Kelly, really, this was her job, to accompany her to a meeting to exchange custody with the children, more or less only as a chaperone. And she had no involvement in this. They weren't friends. They were acquaintances. I think they knew each other from the church that they both attended, in which Jilian Kelly's husband is the pastor. But, she's a mother, and she lost her life doing her job, and just got involved in a situation. When they talk about even social workers and how sometimes they want social workers to deal what we would refer to on the NYPD as EDPs, emotionally disturbed people.
Right.
We all know, being in the police, how dangerous EDPs are, emotionally disturbed people. And to send a social worker one-on-one, that's how I feel so badly. I feel so badly for both of them that they lost their lives. But Jilian Kelly had nothing. She had no fight in this game. She was doing her job. And it's those type of situations where someone's out there doing their job and they lose their life. It's just, it's such a horrific thing. And I don't think you can really talk about it more than to say that, We pray for her family and her soul because this was a horrific situation. And this poor lady doing her job, Jennifer Bassett, a pastor's wife, just doesn't vanish. No, Jennifer, I think we're acknowledging that she's no longer alive. And I think her family was acknowledging that. Wowsy Pony, so sad for the pastor's innocent wife besides the other mom. Absolutely. This is a sad, sad case. But, in these cases, when we talk about, let's present it from a police perspective, we're trying to give you our perspective of why the police did certain things, what they're looking at, what the evidence will tell them, why they did certain things. Because now, why they did certain things, 2 + 2 = 4. And there you have it. There's the 4 people that the 2 + 2 equals. And they're the ones now that made this all worthwhile. And we know why the police did what they did. Alcy MZ, thank you for the $16.99 in New Zealand and other Commonwealth countries. They would get 25 years out earlier. Also, how did they think they would get away with it in this day and age? Alcy, we always ask that question. We always ask, like, why do they use murder as a way to solve a problem? Like, that's the most extreme thing you could ever do. Oh, I don't like this person. I can't deal with him. I'm going to just kill him or kill her. How is that even an option? How is that even on the plate? And how do you think you're going to get away with it? As you said, Alcy, in this day and age, how did they think they were going to get away with this? Short-sighted, right? Oh, there's 4 of us. We're all real smart. We're going to get it. We're going to get away with this, and we're going to kill these people because, and we'll look at this married couple here, the Cole Earl Twombly and his wife, Cora Twombly. Excuse me, it's Twombly, not Twombly. They seem like maybe they had a nice life together. Now, they're not going to have a life together. They're going to be in state prison for the rest of their lives. So how did they get, when you think of the mentality, how did they put this on the list of options? They want to, let's get involved in this. Tifany wants to kill her, her grandkid's mother. She wants to have, so, let's sign on. Let's help her. Let's conspire on how to do this. I mean, how is that even an option, Mike?
Yeah, Billy, I say this a lot, and my wife laughs. I always say, stupidity is stronger than intelligence. And in this case, I think I've been proven right. There's no way that they could match wits with a homicide detective, a veteran homicide detective, or a veteran officer. They can't. And I've even said this before. If the smartest person in the world, say, was Albert Einstein, if he wanted to kill his wife, he'd be caught by the police because that's not what he does. What he does is physics and all kinds of other stuff. What does the homicide detective do? He does homicides. That's his world. And the moment these people step outside of their world, whatever their jobs are, and think they're going to get away with a murder, it's just stupidity outweighing intelligence, and they got what they deserved, and I hope they do get what they truly deserve forever. It's really sad. And when as you were talking about Jilian and Veronica, now Veronica has the children, but Jilian is a passive observer, and you just wonder, and you feel sorry for both of the ladies. But Ms. Kelly, she had no fight, she had no dog in the fight. And just think of the horror and the outrageous circumstances she finds herself in. People are, may have drawn guns on them. It just the terror that these 2 poor ladies underwent in the last moments of their life is just it's sickening. It's just hateful, and there's no way that these 4 people can match wits with a good homicide detective. And they're thinking that they could get away with this. Like, this is like, we can do this. It's so sad. And this is unfortunately what people do. They will resort to an emotional response and something like this over child custody. It's bewildering. and it's sad. And let's just hope that, for the best, that we could have some sort of recovery of these two ladies for their family.
100%. DM, 4 evil cowards. All those young children who lost their mothers will be needing them for their entire lives. Their futures were stolen.
That's
I
right.
agree with you. Lieutenant Peter Pranzo,
Hey,
they underestimated the skill of law enforcement, as they always do, Lieutenant Pete, and you know that, right? Lisa Nia, drugs and felt their power. They had money. They were living in their own reality, perhaps. But now, they've damaged the lives of not just themselves, but so many other people. And these 2 women lost their lives. Alcy, was it a crime of passion? Doesn't seem like it. No, Alcy, it was not. It was a dispute, and someone used murder as a way to try to solve their problems. And that's what we were just discussing. And to think or to put that even in as an option is crazy. Donna Sheridan from the chat, judges need to be more careful of who gets custody of the kids. Stupid is as stupid does. Yes, Donna
True.
Sheridan. I can't imagine the amount of cases and the amount of decisions that a family court judge has to make. And when the family court, he or she goes home that day, how many of those decisions haunt that person? Did I make the right decision? Did I give the child to the right side? Did I make a mistake? Could this child wind up dead? Could the parent wind up? All of those things. So we can't sit here and pretend or blame the judge, because the judges are put in situations they have to make decisions, and the decisions are never easy. Optimistic Maya, I have no idea what makes these murderous grandmothers think they can make better guardians of children than their actual biological parents. Donna Adelson, and now Tifany Adams. Yeah, Donna Adelson, that case is like that, a whole different economic background, but sure, definitely like this. Pine Needle protagonists, they convince themselves that their God's misfits mentality excuses them accountability to humanity. They rewrite ethics and civility. Wow. Pine Needle protagonist, you're a deep thinker. That's very good. Excellent statement there. Melissa Stiller, I guess sovereign citizens do things differently. I'm being facetious. Well, that's okay. You're allowed to do that. Jacqueline, is it verified the grandmother confessed to both murders? I saw that on Facebook, but I've seen it nowhere else. Someone wrote that on Facebook. That doesn't make it true. So I can't report that as truth, because it's coming from just a Facebook post. So who wrote that? Phoebe, Peter Pranzo, Harlem Raiders, no skill required. Law enforcement knew about the custody issues, as they were called at times to escort Veronica to visit their children. Phoebe, I have to disagree with you. There's a huge amount of skill involved here, because it's not just enough to know who did it and lock up who did it. Now you got to have the evidence available to make it stick and to put people in jail or get them convicted if they in fact committed this crime, and send them to prison or have them receive the full wrath of the criminal justice system, which in this case can be the death penalty, because it is a first degree murder. Pine Needle protagonists, to them, they're doing God's work. They live in a reality of their own savior complex. They saw this as a justified and merciful to their belief. Wow. Whenever anyone uses violence in the name of the Lord, you have to really question what that person's doing. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, people want to quote the Bible, they want to quote the Quran, things like that, the Old Testament, New Testament, the Bible. You can find justification for your activities, for your beliefs, whatever you want. You can find, people can justify it. They'll take something out of the Bible, take something out of the sacred book, and they'll use it and say, see, we're doing what, God wants us to do. This is righteous. And they lose track of the fact that what they're going to do is, if you kill this person, not only do you totally alter their life and take them away, but you take them away from their loved ones, their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their children, their nieces, nephews. and you totally change so many other people's lives for one thing that you're trying to accomplish that probably could be accomplished many, many other ways than the way that you're going about it. And sadly, yeah, way too many people quote a good book as the justification for what really is an individual, maybe major, sometimes petty, action that they feel that they need to solve. And that's always a terrible thing when you want to put God on your side to justify murdering another human being.
Absolutely. Folks, if you're looking for a great attorney in the New York metropolitan area, then Joe Murray is your man. Joe's a retired NYPD police officer and a fantastic defense attorney. And you can reach Joe on his cell at 718-514-3855. Email him at joe@jmurray-law.com. Go on his website, jmurray-law.com. Not only is Joe a fantastic defense attorney, but a huge supporter of the Police Off the Cuff podcast, and he's been supporting us for quite a few years right now. I want to play this little clip here.
For Jilian Kelly and Veronica Butler, the two mothers missing from Hugoton.
News Nation, which is owned by our parent company Nexstar, reports the women were shot and blood was found near the car they were last seen in. They say sources told this to their producer. OSBI also confirmed to me tonight they are searching a large area in Texas County, Oklahoma, but did not give me specifics. This is the first new information they've been able to confirm in over a week. News Nation is also reporting that 10 days before the moms went missing, Veronica Butler filed a court petition for full custody of her children. We requested that court document today, but it is now sealed. The revised order sealing and restricting the case says the document was sealed after Jilian and Veronica went missing, and that this is to, quote, protect the integrity of a criminal investigation and to protect minor children. We also asked who requested to have that court filing sealed. We are told that that information is also sealed. Today is day 13.
So interesting. Again, we don't have a specific confirmation from the police, but News Nation is reporting that the cause of death was a gunshot wound. And the police are not verifying that. So they're not coming out with saying, yes, that's correct. I would expect sometime in the next week or so for the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation to have a press conference on this, because there's just too much loose ends to this. There's too much interest in this, and people want to know, and they want to hear it from the police, what actually happened and where they are with this. People in that community, what people always want to know is when there's a double murder like this, are they endangered? Do they have anything to fear? And that's one of the reasons that the police usually at some point have to come out and say, look, none of the rest of the community has anything to fear. We feel or we believe that the perpetrators in this case have been arrested, and therefore the community is not in danger right now. Mike?
Yeah, Bill, I think that would be an excellent idea. Just to assure people that we've got 4 people and we think the conspiracy to commit murder and kidnapping is over, and that there's no one else tangentially involved that we haven't picked up yet. Maybe somebody who supplied shovels, somebody who supplied a tractor, somebody who supplied a getaway car, somebody who supplied this or that, who may also be dragged into the conspiracy in a future time. I think that'd be excellent, and give assure the public that they've tied up all the loose ends, and give everybody a little peace of mind and say, okay, we got everyone. And I think once they get all their technical information, maybe their cell phone data and that sort of thing, and see what the text messaging was, they'll do it. Hopefully they'll do it sooner than later, but that would be really good to do, just to give the public a little feeling of safety, and that to know that there's no one else out there that actually was somehow involved, and there's still, there's a manhunt going on or anything like that. No, just let the public know and give everybody a little peace of mind. That would be really good.
Wendy, law enforcement never said that they were shot. I feel News Nation should not have said that. You know, Wendy, I think that News Nation has a source potentially from law enforcement that is speaking off the record to them, and that's why I believe they went with it. And so they reported that that's what they were told by a law enforcement. You know, they're not giving up their source because they don't have to, and they could get the source in trouble if they do, because you're not supposed to talk about it. Annabella Roma, Bill, if they all pled not guilty, will this make it a capital case? If they plead guilty, will the death penalty be taken off the table? Annabelle, what it is, they wouldn't ask for a plea unless they need one of them to cooperate, or unless they feel it's a very tough case to win from a prosecutorial point of view. They're not going to offer them pleas. The only one they may offer one plea if they need to have one of the defendants perhaps testify against the others, and that would be the person that has done the least, that is the least culpable. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is a death penalty case. So to get someone to cooperate, you can take that off the table for one of them, and get that person. And this is done through attorneys. This is done through their attorney. This is not done with the defendant. It's done through the defendant's attorney. So, and again, it's way too soon to even be talking that, but it's a potential, it's a potentiality. Margaret, 0847, mother should have law enforcement go with her to get the children. You know, Margaret, that's a great point. In New York City, many times in a custody battle, we would have the parents meet in front of the desk of the police precinct to exchange the children. And I mean, it wasn't fun for us because sometimes, you know, you were there just basically to provide security. And one or both of the parents was terrified of the other one, so that the only place they would exchange the children would be in front of the desk officer and cops right in the station house. So yes, that's a good point. That's an excellent point. But there's so many of these type cases. So the police are not going to accompany you, but you can bring your problem to them. I'll put it that way. You could bring your custody battle to the precinct, but they're not going to have enough officers to go with you to do the exchange. But if you say, I'd like it in the court order that we do the exchange in the police station house, that's going to ensure your safety. And I think it's probably a good idea.
Billy, I used to see this in the 4-6. We'd exchange right in front of the desk sergeant or right in front of the precinct with 5 cops, watching. And, you realize, unfortunately, how dysfunctional some of these family units are, and the stress that it places on the spouses and the children, because the children pick up on this stuff. They know that there is a lot of, antagonism, maybe outright hatred from one, from their mother to the father or vice versa. And so it's really terrible, but we did this many times. There's no way you would have enough personnel to monitor, every single, exchange on a Saturday or a Sunday that we used to always see. Those are the heavy days that you'd see on a Friday, pick up the kids, drop them off on a Sunday, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, these families have such a history. And I was thinking about what News Nation said, the idea that Jessica wanted her kids back and may have, made a motion in front of the family court judge to get her kids back. That may have actually set the, unfortunately, may have set the conspiracy against her in motion, because if she was successful, then the grandmother may no longer have actually, custody of the kids, and her hated daughter-in-law would. So I'm thinking, as a timeline, what would start this off? I'm thinking that motion that Jessica made in court to get her kids back, because that was very recent.
Absolutely. Pine Needle protagonist, I hope the system does not ignore the mental health needs of Veronica's children. They're going to have serious attachment issues. Just putting them with more family is going to be a tough road. You know, one of the things I used to say, Pine Needle protagonist, you don't ever want to deal with the system. And that happens to be the truth. You don't ever want the state to be making decisions on your family, for your family, because the state isn't warm and fuzzy like you are, like your family members are. The state makes decisions in a cold, tough manner sometimes. And it gets ugly. And no one ever wants to have to deal with family court. You just don't. You want to somehow be able to handle your family's problems in-house, as they say, within your family. And when you rely on the state to handle your family problems, you already got problems. Right away. You need an attorney, don't you? You have to have an attorney represent you. So right away you're losing. So I want to play just a little bit of Cuomo. This gives some of the more information of what was going on in this case early on.
News Nation correspondent Nancy Liu on the ground trying to get answers, of course, and former FBI agent and News Nation law and justice correspondent Jennifer Coffindaffer. Coffindaffer, you and I will hear how Nancy can feed what we understand about this. Nancy, thank you for joining us. Who have you been talking to, and what do we now know that we didn't know?
Well, Chris, law enforcement still not talking, but this is new. Sources are telling News Nation producer Allison Weiner that the evidence includes blood inside and outside of the women's car. And according to her information, the women were shot. What happened to them remains a mystery. I did get through to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations today. They would not say much, but they did indicate that this investigation is progressing, and they did reveal that other locations are being searched. They would not say where, they would not say why. But as you alluded to, the custody case may be at the heart of this investigation, and this includes an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter, Chris.
Nancy, let me ask you one more thing. The idea, now I know that this isn't necessarily relevant legally, but in terms of reporting and understanding the humanity of the situation, what do we know about the father and his family in terms of by reputation?
Well, this is, like many custody cases, a very ugly custody case. There are a lot of accusations back and forth. Now, Veronica Butler, she lost custody of the kids back in 2022 because she had been moving around. She wasn't able to hold a job. So Wrangler Cole Rickman got custody of the kids, and then he ran into legal trouble. So his mother has been caring for the 2 kids. We understand that due to the custody court documents indicate that the mother has alleged abuse when the kids were with Veronica. Early on, Veronica had claimed the kids were abused when they were with Wrangler. So it's been a back and forth, a lot of accusations, and a very messy custody case.
Nancy, I appreciate it, and good on you for mentioning your producer, Allison Weiner, who's one of the best reporters in the business. I've known her a long time, but much respect to you for giving her that name check. Good for you. So, Jennifer Coffindaffer, what do you make of the advance of understanding blood inside, blood outside, and that may have been gunshot related?
Oh, it's critical. It's what we believe to have happened because there weren't clues in and around the scene in terms of them being in that vehicle anymore. And once we knew there were signs of foul play, we figured it must be blood. But the big key to me is this information about being shot. And that makes so much sense when we're talking about bringing the FBI in. Because when you bring the FBI in, you bring in the ballistics, you bring in the lab capabilities, you bring in all the people that can help in terms of fingerprint analysis and DNA analysis that is going to be critical in a case like this.
Hey, thank you for watching.
She's so right, because forensics is going to play a huge part in this case, especially if they don't find the remains of the two victims. Forensics, we spoke about earlier about blood spatter. We spoke about the blood. We spoke about potential DNA or fingerprints inside that car. And forensics includes also the digital forensics, the digital information that's going to help to solve this case. And Coffin Daffer, as Cuomo calls her, I was Coffin Daffer, I say, he says Coffin Daffer. She's right. And that's one of the reasons you bring in the FBI, because we said it very early on, the toys. They bring lots of resources. They bring lots of toys to the situation, and they will only enhance this case. And the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, along with the local agencies, when you work as a team in law enforcement, you're a very, very tough team to defeat.
Yeah, Billy, bringing in Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, bringing in the FBI is great, because if you don't, then you're relying only on your own resources. And depending on your budget and the personnel, you might be very stretched, very thin. You may not have people who have nearly as much experience as the FBI. The FBI has so much of a budget. They have so many personnel. They are experts in this sort of thing. And therefore, they're a major force multiplier. We saw this in the Koberger case. We've seen this in the Gilgo Beach killing. They bring in so much to you and give you such great capabilities that it's really difficult. You'll have every scientific tool at your disposal, and you'll have personnel at your disposal, and therefore it makes the investigation so much more thorough. This way, there's very little chance that something is going to be missed if you have a small investigative group or you have a very small budget, that sort of thing, because they've done it so many times. They've seen it. They know what they're looking at when they help you, and therefore, they can help you get to the truth and figure out what happened a lot faster than maybe if you never did bring them in, you may not have gotten to that answer, but you can get to the answer a lot faster and make the arrest that much quicker and have a much more, thoroughly prepared case when you eventually go to trial on these charges. So they're fantastic. Kudos to the FBI also.
Beach Life became a YouTube channel member. Well, welcome to the family. Welcome to the YouTube channel membership, and welcome to our Police Off the Cuff family. Someone else in the chat, I just lost it, but someone's saying that Granny confessed. I don't have information of that. I did read something on Facebook that said she confessed, but till we have a confirmation, I can't report that Granny confessed. Lisa Nia, Veronica was in high school when she had her first baby. Granny has been bad to her for all these years. This, look, I don't know Granny, but a picture paints 1,000 words. Sometimes you have, you look at these 4 mugshots, and it's tough to imagine Granny's a good person. I don't know. Can't judge a book by its cover, as they say, but it's sort of tough. It's a tough crew. She's being charged with murder first degree, and you gotta look into it. That the catalyst for this whole incident was the custody battle. And Granny is the one that is so adamant about custody, even though they're not her children. So you got to look into the case and say, wow, that's the causation. That's what happened. That's why these 2 lovely women lost their lives, Jilian Kelly and Veronica Butler. And then you look at Granny in the picture with them. And again, we're hearing other things besides the fact that her mugshot's not the nicest thing, that many people in that county are fearful of her. She's got a record of some past bad acts. Her and boyfriend here. And so those are some of the things, of course, that that the police will be looking into. And there's Granny and Cora Twombly on the screen that you're seeing now. And that's Tad Bert Cullum, who is the boyfriend of Granny. No, he's not the bass player for ZZ Top. He is the boyfriend of Granny. And they're all, what do they call that? Citizens that don't want to follow the laws?
Sovereigns.
Sovereign citizens. They're all sovereign citizens. I know people are going to hate me now for saying he's the bass player for ZZ Top. But
Now, that was my thought, too, when I first saw the mugshot.
You thought he potentially could be a musician with that
Right.
beard, you know. But so when we talk about this Wilesy Pony, Granny is the crime boss. Wow. A lot of you guys know a lot about Granny. You know, a lot of people. Donna Sheridan, that area of local home sounds like a good old boy place like Southern Illinois is like giving a drunk doctor 3 years probation and $500 fine for killing 2 people back in 1971. I don't know which case you're referring to, but P. Lola's mom, would the children be out into protective custody? Feel terrible for them and the rest of the families. If they have a sane member of their family that could take custody of them, then that could happen. Family court likes to give or grant custody of children to other family members. But if the rest of the family is batshit crazy, then they would be wards of the state till they can place them.
Right.
So, Fire Opal, matriarch monster. Yeah, Granny's not impressing a lot of people. Jacqueline, you're on. You know, that was the first thing I said when I saw the picture of Granny, and it says that she's 54 years old. Immediately, I thought of that old expression: "Is that dog years?" Because she looks a hell of a lot more older than 54 years old. You see the picture of her; she looks like, wow. That's not highway driving on that engine, you know. That's 54. That's a rough 54 years, Mike.
Yeah, Billy, you know, you see these pictures and you just realize that, you know, these people are living a very hard life and maybe a hard scrabble life out in the Midwest and where there's a lot of farming and things like that. And these are people who, you know, are working outside every day and they're breaking their backs to you know, plant and reap things. And so she may have you know, spent a lot of time outdoors working, and that's not going to treat your body very well over the years. Yeah, she looks like she herself has had a hard life. Those were 54 very hard years.
Yes. Optimistic Maya. Apparently, Jilian Kelly's mother posted on Facebook that 1, it's confirmed that Jilian has passed away, and 2, the grandmother Tifany Adams has confessed to unaliving both women. You know, Optimistic Maya, I don't doubt that, but I can't just report that as the truth because I don't know where that came from. And you could say it's Jilian Kelly's Kelly's mother, but couldn't someone post something on Facebook and say there's someone who they're not? And so until the police post this, and from a reliable source, I can't just report it as the truth. You know, I have to be considerate of that. Wilesy Pony, Granny has a horrible reputation in that area. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. I'm hearing everyone say that Granny's not too popular. She wasn't the first one getting asked to the prom. You know, she does have a horrible reputation. Papa Bear, cell service would be non-available or very sketchy out in Oklahoma Panhandle. We have family there. Papa Bear, I don't doubt that, but the FBI has some tools that can bring up information that would seem not to be available by other means. So yeah, I don't doubt that there's probably very few cell sites. You're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it's absolutely true. So what we're getting, of course, is that the grandma wasn't well liked in there, and apparently, you know, unconfirmed information on Facebook they're saying that she confessed. But again, you can believe that if you want. And, I would love for that to be true, but I can't report it as the truth. Disc dog, they have the cops in their pocket. We live in Oklahoma, and the entire state is corrupt. A lot of rogue cops in Oklahoma. Well, apparently not in this case, because they made a quick arrest. They brought the FBI in. Daryl Hicks, toilet brushes. I judge books by their cover, especially when they're toilet brush. I live next door. That's the first time I ever heard that expression. I understand what you're talking about, toilet brushes. They're not very good people. But it's the first time I've heard that expression being used. Sometimes we'll say TPT, and that stands for trailer park trash. And that's what, I don't want to insult trailer park trash with these people. We're probably even lower than that. But that's the first I've heard of that expression. Wildzy Pony, thanks for some levity in this horrible situation. You always have to have a humor, even when things are really bad. And this is a horrific case. There's no doubt to it that this is a horrific case. And we spoke that, can they get a conviction if they don't recover the remains? And Mike and I spent some time on that, talking about circumstantial evidence and the fact that, yes, they can still get a conviction if they don't recover the remains. But I have a feeling that they will recover the remains. Daryl Hicks, again, folks, meet the family before you, Miriam, because I didn't meet my mother-in-law, the big fat whale, until after she was just Daryl, I don't know why you're bringing up family stuff on this one. Well, it's Debbie McCarthy. It breaks my heart. These poor kids lost so much. 100%. The kids are the victims in this, as they always are. The kids suffer for the mistakes of the adults, and that's crazy. Fire Opal, laugh out loud, dog years. Yeah, people used to say that all the time on the police department. Alcy, thank you so much. Alcy has joined the Police Off the Cuff family. She just became a member. Thank you for joining us. It's so important to this show that we keep our membership up. And again, if you like stuff from here we go, Alcy. I'll put you on the screen. Alcy became a YouTube member. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining. And thanks for all of our YouTube members, all the people that support this show. We really appreciate it. And folks, if you're not subscribed, go on to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, share us with your friends and your family, and hit that like button, So in wrapping this, summing up this case, this is a horrific case. And 2 innocent people lost their lives over a custody battle. And Mike and I spoke earlier, like, how does murder become an option? How does it become an option in how you do business? It should never be an option. It should never be, I'm just going to kill that person because I can't solve this problem. But we cover these cases all the time. And for some people, it's become an option. Someone just asked, I don't know if someone's just tuning in, who's been arrested. There they are on the screen. Tifany Machel Adams, age 54. Earl Twombly, age 50. Bert Cullum, age 43. Cora Twombly, age 44. And Tifany is now being known as Grandma. She is the grandmother of the 2 children in the custody battle. Bert Cullum is her boyfriend. And Earl Twombly and his wife, Cora Twombly, are Facebook friends with Tifany. Imagine that. Imagine, yes, we hire ourselves out. Well, you're a Facebook friend. We'll help you commit a murder. We'll help you hide the body. We'll help you do whatever you want to do. And we'll communicate that by cell phone so they can get us in a conspiracy. Thank you, Twombly's. You're very smart people. Mike, your final thoughts.
Final thoughts from, it always goes back to the victims, and it goes back to Miss Butler and her family, and Miss Kelly and her family, and the children. So if anybody is on a quiet time of day, it's a Sunday, if you're thinking about just saying a prayer, just please remember the Butler family and the Kelley family in your prayers, because they certainly need it. They need all the strength they can possibly have to face what is going to continue to be a tragedy for the rest of their lives. So pray for the Butler and the Kelley families.
Very well said, Mike. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, and with my buddy, retired NYPD Sergeant Mike Geary. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and God bless everyone.
Take care.
One episode just ain't enough.